So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, Dan Campbell, after a long day at minicamp a day ago, had a press conference with the media where he was asked about the potential timeline and return of 12th overall pick Jameson Williams. And although he did not have a specific date or a specific game that we should expect to see Jameson Williams on the field for the Lions, he did give a little bit of insight on the process they are taking in order to get him back on the field, and pair that with some of Jameson Williams quotes and some of the quotes from his doctor, we might have a little bit of an idea of when we could see Jameson Williams on the field for the Lions, and it may be sooner than a lot of people are expecting. So with that being said and all the intro stuff out of the way, let's get right on into taking a look at Jameson Williams' road to recovery and when we could see him suit up for the Lions in 2022. Now, for many weeks, really since he got to Allen Park, Jameson Williams has been very adamant that he wants to play as soon as possible, even going as far to say that he wants to start in the first preseason game for the Detroit Lions. His doctors have come out multiple times and said that he is ahead of schedule on his road of recovery and that he is in a very good place. The surgery went well and he will look just as good, just as explosive, if not even more so, when he eventually gets back on the football field. But when is that going to be? When are we going to see Jameson Williams actually start to play football? Is it going to be by the start of training camp? Is it going to be by the first preseason game? Is it going to be by week 1 after the bye, or even further down the line? That is the big question that Lions fans continue to ask. And when Dan Campbell was talking about this yesterday, he said that although it is possible that Jameson Williams does start playing football by the beginning of training camp, it is very much unlikely. They do not believe, and for what they expect out of Jameson, they do not think he will be playing by day 1 of training camp. That is the quote that Dan Campbell said. A couple more things that he said. He said, I don't see him being ready by training camp. We're going to do things the right way, meaning like they're not going to rush it back in anything. They're just kind of going to let things play out the way they're supposed to, and they're not going to force or rush any recovery time. And then Dan Campbell also closed out by saying he's going to be ready when he's ready. So they are not going to push Jameson Williams to start before he feels like he is ready to start. They're not going to force him to play football until he feels like he is ready to step back on the football field. But Jameson Williams, as we've already mentioned, wants to play early. He wants to be ready for the first preseason game. And as of right now, that might not be as far-fetched as some people might have you believe, right? Dan Campbell was very specific when saying that he will not be ready for day 1 of Detroit Lions training camp on July 31st. But training camp isn't a 2 to 3 day experience. Training camp is not just a few practices here and there. It is nearly half a month of training. It is 2 to 3 weeks of training from August 31st to July 17th, with a game in there as well. The first preseason game being played on July 12th. So with that being the case, Jameson Williams may not be ready by week 1 and may not be ready by day 1 of training camp, but who's to say that he may not be ready come week 2? Who's to say he may not be playing football come the last week of training camp, or even the last few practices of training camp, right? Just because he's not ready day 1, you still give him another half a month of recovery, and you could see him on the field by the end of training camp. That isn't the most unrealistic thing that we could be seeing from the Alabama product, right? Jameson Williams wants to play, he wants to get back on the field, and when you look at other players that are recovering from an ACL tear, 8 months is around the time where they start to see the field yet again, right? Compare him to his former draft classmate in George Pickens, who last March in a spring game tore his ACL completely, and everybody said his college career is done. 8 months later, I believe, versus Georgia Tech, right before the regular season was about to end, George Pickens made his return to the Georgia Bulldogs and had an impact on their national championship run, right? 8 months. 8 months is the time period between the day he tore his ACL and the day he took his first snap back after the surgery. 8 months for Jameson Williams would be the start of August, right? He tore his ACL on January 10th in the national championship. August 10th is exactly that eight-month mark, giving him a week left in training camp and actually giving him an opportunity to reach his goal and play in the first preseason game on August 12th. Not to mention some of the other games that the Lions have around that time period. 8 days after the first game, they obviously play again on August 20th and then again on August 28th. And the first game is not until September the 11th. So even if Jameson Williams, let's say, returns to training camp like Dan Campbell said is possible, right? Dan Campbell didn't say it's a firm no. He didn't say there's no way. He's saying, although it is possible, he doesn't think that it is going to happen. But Dan Campbell is taking a very conservative approach to the recovery process of Jameson Williams, right? And I think a conservative estimate for him would be like George Pickens, somebody who wants to play and wants to play football games and wants to win, help his team win, do whatever he can to make that happen. Jameson Williams' time frame should be similar to that, right? Within an 8 to 9 month period, we should see Jameson Williams playing football yet again in the NFL. In 9 months is September, right? 9 months is the projected recovery time to be 100%. That is before the first regular season game. Now, as a conservative estimate, I want to say, let's say Jameson Williams is 50%. Right, he is 50%, 60%, somewhere in there by the last week of training camp. Let's say he goes through the last week of training camp, right, trains from July 10th to July 17th, that last week of training camp, and maybe he plays a couple of snaps in the game, or let's just say they hold him out of the first preseason game for safety reasons. That gives Jameson Williams an extra month to prepare for the NFL's regular season. And you might say, okay, is he going to be back to 100% within a month from July 10th to September the 11th? And the answer is probably no, right? NFL conditioning is not something you just pick up, right? You have to work your way into it. You have to keep it. You have to maintain it for a long time. Odds are he won't be 100% come September 11th when the Lions kick off their season versus the Philadelphia Eagles. But there are some encouraging signs that he may be ready before even the NFL's earliest bye weeks. Jameson Williams, 15 weeks, just 3.5 months after his ACL surgery, was running 40s, was running routes, and although obviously it wasn't full speed or full contact, he did look pretty good in his road to recovery. That was 15 weeks after the surgery where Jameson Williams ran a 40-yard dash and ran a 4.4 flat. Keeping that explosiveness without even being at 100%, 4.4 flat is a great time for a wide receiver, let alone a wide receiver that is 3 months removed from an ACL tear and 3 months returned from an ACL surgery. Right, Jameson Williams kept his explosiveness, and you give him an extra 4 to 5 months on top of that just to get to training camp, his explosiveness should very much be back. He should be running anywhere between the low 4.3s to even maybe a high 4.2 by time he returns to training camp, and he should be able to keep all of that explosiveness because even, again, weeks after a surgery, right before he's, I would say, 100% recovered and 100% back into playing shape, he was running 4.4s and he was running routes very, very smoothly. So Jameson Williams' road to recovery may be ending sooner than we might think, right? A lot of people right after the draft said, okay, he's a great player, but he won't play until Thanksgiving. He won't play until at least week 10. He won't even play at all this season. And if he does, it's going to be 4 to 5 games to end the NFL season, right? Week 12 to week 18 or something like that. But with recent news and with, Dan Campbell saying he might play during training camp, with him saying he wants to play in the first preseason game, the timeline might be shortened significantly before we see Jameson Williams return to the game of football. So let's say Jameson Williams plays. Let's say Jameson Williams goes into the NFL season at 80%. Right, give him a whole month of training, and you give him a whole month to kind of build up endurance, build up his speed, build up his strength, and get ready for the NFL. I could see Jameson Williams playing in week 1. I don't think that is the most unrealistic of expectations for Lions fans, even though it might have seemed that way when they drafted him in the first round back a month or so ago, right? And even if he's not at 100%, I could see for the first 2 to 3 weeks of the NFL season, he has a George Pickens role, right? Where he may not play every down, even though he might be the best wide receiver on the roster, he may not play every single down, and the Lions might reserve that speed, might reserve that playmaking ability for the big time plays, right? Bringing him 3 to 4 snaps a game to take the top off of a defense, to have that at least threat of taking the top off the defense, right? Send him down the field. Maybe you don't even throw him the ball. Maybe he's just simply a decoy for the first couple of weeks until he's actually 100% healthy and ready to take full-on hits again. But you can still utilize him. Utilize him on the big plays. Utilize him on the go balls, on the post routes, on the double moves, right? Utilize his speed and game-breaking ability down the field without overusing him and using him too much once he returns to the football field. So Jameson Williams could play in week 1. That isn't an unrealistic expectations for Lions fans, especially if there is a possibility that he could play even partially, even limitedly in training camp. So with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. I just wanted to update you about the biggest injury on the roster right now. Jameson Williams is yet to practice with the Detroit Lions, but training camp is right around the corner. And Dan Campbell, somebody that's being very conservative with the recovery time, has said that it is possible that Jameson Williams is running routes and catching footballs by the end of training camp. So with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about this road to recovery. Let me know what you guys think about Jameson Williams. When do you expect him to play? And when do you want him to be playing by? What week would he be playing by for you to justify that 12th overall pick? And what game would he have to be starting by in order to, I'd say, meet expectations for his rookie season? I'd be very curious to you guys think. But with all of that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.